Hello and welcome to month one of our 2023 $5 Quilt Club. In this video, I will be showing you how to do the traditional piecing. That is this block. This is the fabric that you got in your kit. I'm going to be doing this video with solids. First off, we have two methods. This is the traditional piecing video. We will also have one on foundation paper piecing. So that will come in a separate video. So first off, you will have two strips of fabric, but one with the cheetah print and one with this denim type look, and then one teeny tiny little 2-inch square. So to begin, you're going to want to print off the template page and cut out each one of these pieces. So here in the video, I have these already cut out. You're going to be cutting them out on the thin lines and leaving the bold line there. So this is just a little preview of the blocks. Each one labels each one. So this large square is A, and then you can see that how they're labeled A in the little diagram there. So cut out each one of your these templates. Alternatively, if you don't want to use the templates, you can print off the rotary cutting guide. They are very precise measurements. So it's 4 7/16, 1 6/16. So I don't have a ruler that does 16ths. So I had to use the template page. So if you don't want to use the template page, you can definitely use the rotary cutting guide. Either way will work. What you do need to end up though with is, a piece that's exactly this size and how many of each one. So for A, you're going to have 4 of each B, so of the cheetah and the denim type print. For C, everything is labeled there for you. Okay, so to cut with a template, I'm going to show you how to do that. You're going to this is my center one, and I picked out this light blue. Whenever you get your fabrics, you're going to want to make sure that they are pressed and starched if you want to have, make sure that the fabric's not going to stretch at all. So depending on which way you grab the fabric, this way it stretches, this way it does not. So whichever way you cut, also if it's on the bias, you're going to get a lot more stretch compared to along the grain or straight of grain. So I'm just going to press this real quick because we want and starch it because we want our fabric to not stretch, because that's how our points don't line up. So I'm going to take it over the iron real quick and just give this a quick spray and a quick press here so it's nice and flat. So I do like to use this. This one is my favorite. It smells so absolutely delightful, and it gives your fabrics real nice and crisp feeling, and with a lot less stretch. So when you are cutting with templates, you are going to put your fabric, your template over your fabric, and then you're going to, let me see if I can move this over here to the side. You're still going to use a ruler to cut. So you want to put your ruler over the corner here and cut 2 sides at once. And get my rotary cutter and show you how. So I'm going to cut that side, not moving, and now I'm going to cut this side, not moving. So sometimes when you pick up your template off of your paper here, the paper wants to stick to the back. So if you want to just put a little dab of a glue stick right on underneath your paper template, that way it doesn't follow your ruler when you move it, then that can sometimes help. So now I'm going to cut on this side, and that way I get a perfect D square. So there's only one of those, and you're going to do the exact same thing for all of these. So you are going to cut out 4 of this cheetah of B, and then 4 of this green denim, also of B. For you traditional piecers, we are recommending that you cut them just a tad longer on the edges of both the B and the A square, so that at the end, if your block measures just a little bit bigger than 10, you can trim it down. But if it is slightly smaller than 10, then you're stuck with a small block. So If you want, you can just make this slightly a rectangle instead of being square. You can just make it just a tad longer, and then we'll just use a 10-inch square and trim up the blocks once we're done. So this is a 9.5, so I have to get a 10, but so for example, once you're done, you would use this to trim up your block. Again, this is a 9.5, not on a 10. You would have to use a 10-inch or larger. So I do have a 12-inch, which also works. So you can line it up on the 10 and measure and trim anything that's extra on these two sides. Rotate your ruler and then trim again on these two sides to make sure that your square, when you're done, is completely 10 inches. So, sorry, looks like my sewing machine turned off. Okay, you are also going to need, so A is the black, you're also going to need 4 C's out of your black, and you are definitely going to want to trim these little sides here, which is a little tedious with the ruler, so you will have to trim that. So if you put it right here, you can trim this corner and this corner at the same time, and then if you rotate it back this way, you can trim right here and right here, and then you just have to move the ruler to trim right here, and then again trim it right there. So you do want to trim exactly to these edges on those little triangles, because it makes it easier to line them up once they are all cut out. So I'll show you that in just a second. I'm going to grab my black fabric. Okay, so I have a very large piece of black here. So I'm going to cut out my template A, and then I'll show you how I cut out the template C. Okay, so I'm going to move all my paper. Looks like you can still see me. So you did just get a strip of black in your kits. I have a larger piece of black here because I have so much left over black from a previous project. But, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try to cut all 4 layers of my A at the same time. So I'm going to make sure that when I have this fabric folded, I can look under and see that because this is a scrap piece, that there's enough space there. So I'm going to use my larger ruler here because my cute little 3.5 is not going to cut it. Unfortunately, this is a slipping ruler. It's not a non-slip ruler. The Quilter Select they are just phenomenal. Look at it, it just doesn't go anywhere. So these slip really, really easily. So it does take a little bit more time and concentration to make sure that when you are cutting, you are not you're not slipping. So we don't want to make these squares smaller than what we need. We want them to be, if anything, a little bit larger. So when I cut this, I am going to line up the ruler with my 1/4-inch seam allowance and my 1/4-inch line on my ruler itself. For safety, we never want to have our hands flat like a pancake. We want to always have them up like a spider so that there's less likelihood of our fingers being cut by the rotary cutter. When they're down real flat, it's really, I mean, it's not really easy, but it's if for some reason the rotary cutter goes over, you're going to slice a lot of your finger, but if it's up nice and high, hopefully it hits your knuckle before it hits the top of your finger. So I'm going to go ahead and just slice this here and then get that out of the way. Really carefully move my ruler off, rotate my ruler just so that there's a nice cutting edge. And then again on this one, since we do want that to be slightly larger, I'm just going to make it, just about 1/8 of an inch larger. So, but only on one side. So looks like my template, darn it, moved a little bit. So again, this is where an Elmer's glue stick would be really helpful. Pins are just a little too bulky. You won't be able to put your ruler on there nice and flat if you pin your paper to your fabric. So right here, I'm going to line up my 1/4-inch on both sides here, except for this one. I'm going to leave this one a little bit longer, just about 1/8 of an inch, so that I can trim my block once it's done. So I'm just going to rotate my whole body and cut. Let's see. felt like I missed that corner. Okay, so you can see how my A is just a little bit longer on one side. Okay, so that's all my A's. So now I need to cut out C. So because I need 4 of these guys, here are 2 pieces that should be wide enough. I'm going to just test that, see if that's going to be wide enough. Okay, that looks like it's wide enough. So I'm going to slice that again, rotate, and put all 4 pieces right on top of each other. And then I'm going to use my really awesome Quilter Select ruler that does not slip to cut the edges here. And it looks like you can, I'm still on screen. So I'm going to keep that into place. I'm going to cut really, really perfectly. This one doesn't move at all, which is good because it's a tiny, tiny piece. So I'm going to be very careful when I lift that up. I'm going to try not to rotate that piece at all. Looks like this mat is going to be a little bit in the way. But if I put this right on the corner, and again, I'm putting my 1/4 inch right on the inner line there. So if I move this down a little bit, I should be able to cut both this top and the side at the same time. 1, 2. So I don't move the ruler before I move the fabric, just in case there's a little thread hanging there. That way you get the highest accuracy when cutting. Okay, so now I just need to cut this other corner here. Oh, if I do it like this, I can cut both at the same time. So, see if I can get my 1/4 inch lined up with each part. Looks like I'm gonna have to remove this. This mat is, I have overlapping mats and they're just kind of in the way here. If you can, you know, try not to move your pieces, because you have 4 layers of fabric all lined up and we do not want them to move so that you get the highest accuracy when cutting. Okay, so I'm going to line these up right with the edges here, right here and right here, and I'm going to cut both of those sides right there. I'm going to push down that one and that one. Okay, again, you want to move your fabric, keeping your hand on your template so that it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, so now I think the only thing I'm missing is that one side right there. So I'm going to rotate my ruler, put it down slowly, and now, excuse my arm, cut that little corner off so that it can line up. Ta-da! There we go. Okay, so that's just an example of how to cut those out. Again, it's just going to be the same thing for all of your pieces. You want to make sure that, because I know we folded them up in those kits, you want to make sure that your fabric has no wrinkles in them at all. For greater accuracy, we recommend using spray starch and ironing them before you cut. If you use spray starch after you cut, you'll notice that your pieces are no longer the same size because your fabric will shrink ever so slightly. So I'm going to cut out the rest of these pieces and then show you how to stitch them together.